Good evening, everyone. I don't know if I'm showing. It's my pleasure to see a lot of you have turned up for our very first town hall meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to get to know each other a bit more, network, as well as have the means of giving you an update as to all the events and meetings we've had over the past 9 months or thereabout. My name is Helen Fadipe. I'm the founder of BAME Planners Network and also a member of the steering group. Both myself and Sarah Dimamod and Judith Onu will take you through a presentation. But before I do that, I will just speak to us briefly as to what to expect in terms of the agenda. So I'm going to share my slide and just talk us through quickly. Play from current slide. Okay, hope you can all. Screen sharing has failed. Please try again later. What happened there? Okay, it says screen sharing has failed.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, I don't know why the screen sharing is failing. Hi, Sema, how are you?
I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to try again. Okay, sorry, let me just see. Okay, can you see my screen now? No?
Yes, we can, we can.
Okay, let me just, so is it the play from current slide? Is that, so you can see the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I was a little bit hesitant because it seems like the screen show, it wasn't going to come up. So I've already said welcome to our very first town hall event. And the main purpose is to get to know one another and also to find out how we can work together to take this forward. I would like to start by saying a special welcome to members of our advisory council. I can see that 3 of them are here this evening. And once I've gone through the agenda, I will go off screen so that they can show their faces. Maybe I'll do that now. Please excuse me. I'm just going to stop the share. So this is town hall. So we are meant to be family. So hopefully, hopefully things will run smoothly. But if we keep chopping and changing, just bear with us. It's meant to be a family gathering. So I'd like to introduce our advisory council members. The first person who logged in this evening is Dedra Amsby. She is a director in Westminster Council, and we are very, very pleased to have her on board as one of our advisory council members. Welcome. Second person I'd like to introduce you to is Wei Yang. She's also one of our advisory board council members. And we've got Same Bagin, who is also one of our advisory board members. And if any of the others turn up later, I will introduce them. So we are quite pleased to have them on board, and we hope that they will contribute this evening to our ongoing dialogue as to how we can make more impact. We're already beginning to make impacts in the profession, but hopefully by the end of the day, we would have more strategies, better strategies to keep on doing that. So I'm going to go back again now to my screen sharing. I just wanted to acknowledge our advisory council members. So I've done the welcome. Welcome to everyone, to our advisory council members. The next thing would be a presentation to give you an update as to what we've been doing all this month. We've been very, very busy. It's been a very busy period. And I would like to at this stage say a big thank you to all the steering group committee members and members of the communication team. they've done excellent work, as well as the organizing committee, but we'll come to that later as well. So after the update and governance, we are going to go into 2 breakout rooms. We are hoping that, it's going to select people at random, and you will be in 2 rooms. And we are going to be in those rooms for about 40 minutes because we've got 3 questions we want you to answer while you are in that room. Then we are going to come back again, and then each of the breakout rooms will give a short presentation, summary of what they've discussed. That will be followed by a question and answer session to the steering group. Even though we don't want to put our advisory council members on, okay, in terms of put them on the spot. However, if anyone has any questions for them, please, this will be the time that you can do that. And that particular session will be chaired by both Judith and Sarah. If when Ransford joins, he may also join us, in moderating that session. Then we will talk to you about the upcoming events for May, and then the closing remarks. So hopefully we should be able to get through the time as advertised. So we just hope that you will be able to stay on, give us your comments, give us your opinion in the breakout rooms. We want to hear your voice, and then you can please stay behind after the last closing remarks to network with members. Thank you very much. So I'm going to now go on to my first slide. I think a few people are waiting. Pan or whoever is admitting people. Okay, I've admitted them all. Yeah, okay. Thank you. If you're interested in knowing what the questions we are going to be asking you to discuss during the breakout room is, you can look in the chat room. It's been put up there for you, but we'll still show you a slide with that information. So just for the purpose of those who haven't seen the slide or don't know a lot about the BAME Planners Network, we've often said that the BAME, the BAME, that's Black, Asian, Minority, Ethnic Group, is not one homogeneous group, and that different people also experience different levels of success within the profession. I'm sure we are all aware of that. And we know that colorism, accents, and where you come from, all that play an important part. And many of you have reached out and spoken to us about how the issue of race has impacted upon your working life and career. We know of people who have been in the same position for years, and despite their efforts to move on or progress in the planning profession, they've not been able to do that. We've heard you, we've listened to you, and we are passing the message on. And we are working with those people who can influence things. So we are not just taking on board your points, but we are looking at how can we effect that change. We are also aware that discrimination, mostly covert and unintentional, abounds within the profession. And again, I'll be speaking to the converted, so I'm not going to go into how this manifests itself. But this is things that we tell those that we tend to present to, so that we know that it's not until someone it's openly racist that is racist, even in terms of the way that for those who work in local authority, how casework is allocated, who gets to sit at the table, all those things may not show that they are being racist, but oftentimes it is, unintentional. And of course, we know that when it comes to interview, people tend to appoint those who look like them, who sound like them. And again, even though we've thrown stones at the race report, but the race report backs up that notion. That was one of the things I agreed with in that race report, that people tend to, appoint those that look like them. And as some of you, if not most, know, that of course, indirect discrimination may not be intentional, but it does have a profound and long-lasting effect. I know my personal experience when I go out on site and I'm being stoned. That affected me for a while. And anytime I was going out on site, I was always looking and just making sure that I wasn't going to be stoned just because I'm Black. So again, this is just to refresh us about our aims. The first aim we have is to raise the profile and visibility of BAME planners working in the planning profession in the UK and Ireland, to encourage all BAMEs to enter the planning profession at all levels. And what we mean by that is it's not only for graduate entry, but there might be people who want to change careers, who are maybe architects or even geographers or even doctors who say, look, I like what you are doing in planning, we want to join you. Of course, we want to encourage more ethnic minorities to come into the planning profession. We also want to support BAME planners in achieving their career goals in all settings. And why we've used the word all setting is because our members work in different areas, both the public sector, civil service, local authorities, third sector, third sectors and private sectors. So we work across the board. So we don't want to just focus on those who want to be promoted in terms of their paid employment, but there are many consultants, independent consultants amongst us. How do they get those contracts? How do they get those big procurement opportunities? These are things that we are working on to make sure that we level the playing fields for our members. Our fourth aim is to enable and support BAME communities to influence planning in their locality. We don't want to just be an inward-looking network. We want to see how we can help our local communities. And we encourage our members, especially you, that's everyone here this evening. If you live in an area and there is planning, planning consultation, please get engaged, get involved. I'm speaking to myself. Oftentimes, we don't get engaged. And so who will get engaged in those local areas? And as we know, those groups that are hard to reach includes ethnic minority groups. So please get engaged and also educate your local community, help them to get engaged. If you need help, speak to us in terms of the steering group or other members of the network so that they can assist you in getting involved and responding on behalf of yourself and your local community. Our last aim is to partner and collaborate with relevant organizations on improving perceptions and opportunities for BAME planners. We've done this a lot and we hope to continue to do so. So it's something that we've been working on, and I don't want to steal Sarah's thunder, but we've been able to get an action plan agreed with the RTPI that we are working towards implementing so that we can continue to drive change. As you all know, our membership is a friendly platform. We've had a lot of feedback, and I'm not going to go into that tonight. Most members who are on the WhatsApp chat room, I think as of date, we have close to 80, if not more, people in the chat room. And of course, a lot of people have benefited from being in the chat room, people asking for help. And even those who are not in the chat room, they call us, we've made ourselves available, steering group members, non-steering group members. And as you all know, the network is free to join. And I've already said in terms of the composition, I'm not going to talk about that right now. And we've also made it not exclusive, which means that we have non-BAMEs within our midst, and they've been very, very supportive and helpful in terms of us attaining our goals. I'm going to just introduce you briefly to the steering group members. We decided to put this assortment of mug shots. Hopefully you can recognize some of them. One of our steering group members is Abraham Leka. He's in the private sector. Olafini Taiwo, also in the private sector and a research student at UCL. Ransford Stewart, Stewart is also a planning consultant. Sarah Dimamod, also a planning consultant. Gavin Chimia, is DM manager. Myself, I'm a planning consultant. Pan Chong works in public sector, local authority Enfield, and Judith also works in the private sector. And we all have different roles and functions, which unfortunately, because of time, I won't be able to go into this evening, but hopefully we can update you as to how we all contribute. So we all have different committees, different things that we are sharing. I haven't got the pictures of those who are already volunteering in the communication team, and I don't want to miss out anyone. So I remember most names. Maybe I just call out, and Pan, if I miss anyone out, please just acknowledge them. So we've got Edith, Courtney, Krina, Edith, Courtney, Pan. Can you remind me of the names of the other people in the communication team? Morgan. Yeah, Morgan is also there, and
Ola.
And yes, Olafin. Yeah. So when we stop our presentation, we'll probably like to acknowledge them so that you can see the hard work they are doing. And Edith, yes, I've mentioned Edith already. So I'm now going to hand over to Sarah, who is going to take us through the network updates. Okay, over to you, Sarah.
Thanks very much, Helen. And good to see so many faces here this evening. So in terms of what we've been up to, I've crammed quite a lot into this next 3 slides because we've crammed quite a lot into the last 3 months. And some of the things that I will talk about, you've been involved with as members. I can see some of the names in the room because you volunteered, but perhaps you're relatively new to joining the group or just beginning to think about how you step up your engagement. So just to bring you up to speed with what's been going on. Well, the initial focus has been, of course, raising the profile of the network, its existence as a new network initially through social media events and our activities. But critical to that, raising the profiles, of course, of a hugely diverse group of planners that we have within the network as well. So we've gained more than 500 followers on LinkedIn, and that number's still growing. We've got a growing Twitter following. We've had a whole series of events which I think many of you would have been to or even participated in. We, of course, recently for our new RTPI president, who's here, I'm delighted in the room and part of our advisory council, as Helen mentioned, and a wonderful lecture from Samir as well. And of course, our wider group of members have been involved in active as speakers in other key events in the wider planning sector. So the focus of a lot of these events has been centered around these objectives, very much linked to that profile building exercise of so really ensuring that our members have the tools to help them progress to that next level in their planning career or enter the planning profession. And a key event or rather support that was held was a coaching program really aimed at those seeking to gain a senior management position, and that was delivered in association with Gattenby Sanderson. So there's been quite a lot of this activity around profile raising of the network, of its individual members, but also, and I think as a member of the network as well, of course, I've been really pleased to just engage with and meet and sort of discuss different issues with a number of members of the network and have awareness of different opportunities that I wasn't even aware of, even having been in the planning sector for 20 years or so now. And what the network has done, and I hope if you're not tapping into this that you will do soon, is create some of those opportunities for informal support and knowledge exchange. If you've been on the WhatsApp group, you'll see there's lots of discussion in terms of people applying for jobs and those who are able to offer support, offering that support, and a whole range of other issues. And so it's great to see the network flourishing in that that way, seeing that growing visibility to the wider sector, but also visibility almost of each other and the huge amount of talent that we've got within the network, I think is tremendous. I'm going to do my Chris Whitty now, Helen. Next slide, please. Thanks. So we've obviously been collaborating, engaging with a huge number of organisations, and Helen has been leading with engagement with the RTPI and working up an action plan, as she described at the beginning. But it hasn't just been the RTPI. We've been collaborating with a whole range of organisations. A key project that we were involved in was working on the Diverse Leaders Pledge, something initiated and led by New London Architecture, NLA, but with 13 other inclusion and diversity organisations, really looking at how to make the sector more inclusive and making a commitment to advocacy, to kind of recruitment change, and really pushing this as an agenda, and inviting organisations to sign up to that pledge. And so we've been involved in shaping what that pledge looked like. We've engaged with a whole range of bodies. That's a whole range of planning acronyms there for you. Everyone you'd want: POS, ALBPO, PAS, PAS, GLA, CPRE, it goes on. I think we can get pins in there quite soon, as well as other individual authorities. What are we doing in this engagement? Well, we're quite a new organisation, as you know, a new network, but some of that has just been introducing ourselves, understanding our work, and sharing our objectives with them. But we've been quite surprised about how quickly that's moved. From initial discussions and that kind of introductory stance to really quite meaningful discussions on, okay, how can we challenge these organisations, or they're inviting us for that challenge to be more inclusive in some of their practices, whether it's improving representation on committees or advisory groups that they have, looking at their approach to procurement, the way that they administer awards programmes or accreditation programmes and similar. We've also been sharing through various channels some of those opportunities with the wider network, so those opportunities to tap into other mentoring programs, or opportunities to speak at events and so on. So we've had a real focus, as I say, on that kind of initial profile raising, but also that collaboration and beginnings of engagement with different organisations, beginnings of those actions, and hopefully the continuing of those conversations as we go forward. Next slide, please, Helen. And some of our interventions have been much more strategic, thinking about, well, how do we influence policy at a national level, and moving down to organisational level as well. Some of our steering group members were invited to meet with our new, not so new now, chief planner at MHCLG, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. We responded, and several of you contributed to this, to the government's planning white paper, and gave evidence to the Parliamentary Scrutiny Committee on the planning white paper in person. I don't want to derail the whole discussion this evening. I thought it was very brave of you to raise it at the outset, Helen, but published some reflections on the recent race and disparities report from one of our members, and we've started some work as well, which I think is really key, to create a survey to capture information on organisational EDI strategies across the planning sector and data on staff diversity. And I think this data, and I've put it here under strategic interventions, is a really important foundation for our future activity, whether it's in the policy and lobbying space, and just to give a sort of rigour and basis to some of the discussions that we're having. I'll hand back to you, Helen, now as we move on.
Okay, thank you very much for that excellent presentation. I would like to call Judith to now present in terms of governance, what we've been doing in that region. So we have 3 steering group members who've been heavily involved in that: Olafin Taiwo, Abraham Leka, and Judith. And Judith will just present what they've been doing. Thank you, Judith. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first town hall meeting. So, as Helen said, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what the Governance Committee has been doing in relation to getting the documents ready. So, as our visibility grows as a network, it's really important that we have really clear strategies and policies in place that governs how we interact with one another and outside organisations. So it's really important that we have solid foundations for management and oversight. So it's really clear how the steering group members operate and who they report to and how that translates back to network members. It's really important also that the network that we have and how it's structured aligns with and supports the objectives of the network. And it's really important that we're also able to protect the reputation of the network and being able to clearly identify early on risk and mitigate those risks. We've been working on a number of documents. This is just a brief list of the ones that we've thought that we really need to progress. The ones that we are working on in the immediate term are highlighted in red, which are the sponsorship pack, the media kit, and the volunteering strategy. So we've been approached on a number of occasions to provide articles and respond to journalists, and it's just really important that we've got a media kit together that outlines the network objectives, who is our position on certain issues in relation to race and diversity in the planning profession that we can issue to these organisations and to network members where needed. Also, as a new network, our visibility has grown and we've been interacting with a number of organisations, and we've been approached by a few of them to sponsor us as we develop as a network and to help us when we're looking at organising events. At the moment, we don't have a clear strategy for how we interact with these organisations and how sponsorship can be obtained. So that's something that we're working on at the moment, to have clear procedures outlined to show how any funds gained will be managed and show how the funds are spent. So at the moment, there's only 3 of us on that committee, myself, Ola and Abraham. There's quite a lot of work, as you can see, that needs to be done. So we're really welcome anyone who wants to volunteer to be part of this committee. So just let us know, send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to bring you on board. If I hand back to you, Helen.
All right, thank you very much for that. Okay, thanks very, very much. I think, just to add, just a point is that it's very important, it's very important that we have most of this information available, because up to date, most of the expense we've been undertaking has been steering group members, well, I won't say bankrolling, but that's what it is, the network. And we have people who have approached us saying, look, what can we do? We want to sponsor you. But if we don't have a policy in place, we don't want to start taking people's money, because then we might end up in trouble. In terms of one of the things that was not mentioned is that in terms of governance, we are looking at limited, okay, I'm going to call Olafin because she knows a little bit more in terms of governance. Olafin, can you just talk briefly in terms of the structure of the network? Thank you very much, Olafin.
Yeah, thank you, Eileen. In terms of the governance, what we have decided is to register as a company limited by guarantee with the charity, with the Companies House, and we will be having some of the directors as members of the steering group who have significant interest in becoming directors would act as directors with the Companies House. We are in the process of completing the application form. At the moment, we are also in the process of completing our bank account opening application form as well. We have submitted, we're waiting for feedback from the bank before we proceed to register with the Companies House.
Okay. Thank you very much for that update. All right, so without further ado, I know that some of you might have questions, so we didn't really program having a Q&A time after that presentation. So I hope that you don't mind writing down your questions, any questions you have from the presentation we've given, note it down, please. So when we come back to the question and answer with the steering group, we'll be quite happy to take your questions. So regarding the breakout discussion topics, the first topic will be how can we better tap into the skills of the network to meet current needs? And some of those needs, we've not outlined it, is we find, apart from the aims of the objectives, we find out that we have a lot of members that need mentoring, either for career progression, in terms of moving through the ranks, or people coming into the job market for the first time, or those who come from abroad. And at times, some just want a friendly person because where they're working, they are often the only ethnic minority within that organization, and they don't know anyone else who looks like them. And so it's important for us to start to look at how we can tap into the skills. Then apart from the softer issues, we've got, because we're trying to encourage organizations to broaden those that speak at their events. So we want to know those who are interested in speaking, so it's not just the same people who are being invited. So we want to be able to tap into your skill sets. We are also in the process of setting up a mentoring program, and that will also include some training program. And we're also going to set up a surgery so that we have a regular surgery for those who just want someone to talk to. Of course, we've also had issues of people who are facing racism in the workplace. So anyone with HR experience that can bring that on board to help those people, so that will be welcomed. I'm sure that there are still other areas in terms of the kind of skills we need, but we just need you as a planner, your experience, your day-to-day experience, your management experience. How can you, give back to others? Because the network, as we said right at the start of the formation of the network, that your net worth is your network. So, but if we don't all network, then that net worth would not be achieved. So the more we network with one another, then the stronger we will become. The second question is identify 2 distinctive interventions or projects that you think would have the highest impact in achieving our network objectives and why. So and then the third question is, what does an inclusive working environment look and feel like to you? So there are going to be 2 groups, and one of the groups will be facilitated by Gavin. I'm just going to take this off so that Gavin can show his face. Hi, Gavin. So one of the that group will be Gavin. Gavin is a member of the steering group. And then the second breakout group would be done by Sarah Dimamud. So she would facilitate that. And there will be other steering group members. And we are hoping that our advisory council members, we are going to have at least one in each of the groups so that all 3 are not in the same group. Shortly, you will see an invitation pop up on your screen. Please accept it, and then that will take you straight to your breakout room. Towards the end of the breakout session, you will see another invitation telling you that the breakout is about to end. If you finish by then, please come back into the main room. If not, once that countdown stops, it will automatically bring you back to this particular room. The facilitators can decide to nominate someone else to give the feedback, or they will give the feedback. So it depends on what you decide in your room. I note that we are about 29 people, and hopefully the breakout rooms won't be too big. I'm just considering whether we should make it 3 rooms, or will 2 rooms be okay? I know that Pan is already set up for 2 rooms.
I think 2 rooms will be okay, Helen. Thank you.
So that's fine. Okay, so hopefully you can all have a say. It's 40 minutes, so that's plenty of time. I'm now going to hand over to Pan, who is going to get us all into our respective rooms. Thank you.
welcome back, everyone. I'll just let Helen bring us back into the meeting. Thank you, Helen.
No, thank you. No, but anyway, since you're doing it already, so please do go ahead. Thank you.
Great. Well, just invite Judith in that case, just to, because we're all in suspense around what was going on in the room next door, right? So we had a really great discussion. So we can't go into detail, mindful of your times and the end of the evening, but perhaps just a few highlights so we can share the discussions that were going on in the different room. Judith, over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. I don't know who wants to lead from our group. Gavin? Just to provide some headlines of what we spoke about. It was a really informative session. As you can see, we're a little bit late, so apologies, everyone. I think you're still on mute, Gavin.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think for the first question, I think some of the comments, which are really, really good stuff, really. I think one of them was a skills audit to understand basically the skill set of the network and to actually feed into that process. So like people who are starting out in planning, people are mid-career planners, senior planners, or they could be from the private sector as well, public sector, to have different sort of skill sets so we can actually get a knowledge base. So if we need to tap into that knowledge base, people can actually give feedback to relevant officers. So that was one area. There was also a mentoring scheme, going through a mentoring process with like officers. That was another process, because I think there's a lot of people who are at a junior level, and it'd be good to be mentored by more senior members of staff, so they can get better experience through their career path. And so that was some of the highlights from the first one. Should I go on to the next question?
Yeah.
So, some of the areas were about raising the awareness of the network more readily, and I know we talked about maybe having a website, and also maybe going into schools and universities and promoting it through that mechanism. So that's one of the areas where we could promote the network more. Also, there were questions about the ethnic makeup of areas in terms of like where people are from, and also making it, I think where there's not enough people from the BAME sort of community who make up communities in London. I think there needs to be more awareness about that in the planning system. And to the final question, in terms of what makes an inclusive environment, it's basically where you work in terms of local communities. It should reflect where you live. There's no in some places, there's no diverse talk of different diversity sort of communities in the area. There should be like a knowledge hub and transfer of diversity in the area like where you work, and to be more inclusive all round in the network, and be more outward thinking by many organisations. Sorry. So that's generally some of the feedback from the breakout session.
Perfect. Thanks, Gavin. It's really helpful. Sarah, did you want to lead for your group, or have you nominated somebody else?
Sure, I'm happy to lead, but I might invite others to jump in, or feel free to do so, those who are in the room with me. If we were in like a real room setting, I would say you were hearing some of our discussion, because there are certainly some common issues that came out there. We started with a really interesting discussion and just sort of understanding what our USP was, so understanding what's the unique selling point of the group, and just sort of recognizing that, particularly in the context we're in now, the fact that we exist as a network and the diversity we have within the network is in and of itself a diverse selling point. We also got to the idea of a skills audit, making that available both to our members to kind of use that in the way that they connect, but also using that potentially to drive some areas in terms of how the network itself evolves and the direction it takes, kind of based on that skill set. So the same thing there. And as we started to talk about the role of the network in raising the profile of planner, we leapt into a really interesting discussion, which was around actually the perception of the sector, the planning of planners and overall. And so what is the role of the network in raising the profile of the planning profession overall, and potentially how we could have a positive role in that, potentially working in a more formalised way with some of the RTPI's forthcoming programmes, perhaps in an official partnership capacity. We also started to think about, so we had some good comment on, we mentioned at the beginning of the meetings, and this should be clear in all of our material, that the group is sort of non-exclusive. Anyone from any background can join who shared the objectives of the group, but just making that clear, as one of the comments that came up was actually this requires the collective effort of white planners in the sector to get involved and move this debate forward. So making that, bringing them into that discussion and into this space. And as we moved on to other more focused areas for impact, we also talked about the early pipeline planners work. So looking before someone gets through university, how are we kind of supporting people into this as an option, even, so right at that early stage. As we started to move to the discussion and what does an inclusive environment look like, we talked about mentoring and support being part of the culture of performance in the way that some of your technical stuff would be. So kind of mainstreaming that and systemizing that so everyone gets to access that, and that some people who are offering that, perhaps just generously and informally, don't get overburdened within work. So that was talking about in the workplace context, but perhaps supporting that shift. And critically, we also talked about data on pay and pay disparity as we started to talk about what does an inclusive environment look like, what would be an environment in which that doesn't exist at all. Olufiyan, or indeed anyone else from my group, if there's anything else that you want to sort of share with our colleagues from the other room, please do. I'll invite you to do so. Is that kind of a fair summary? I'm seeing some nods, and I'll take that and hand back to Judith. Thank you.
Thanks, Noah. That's really interesting. And I think, like you said, yeah, we probably were both in each other's rooms having a little listen because we came up with similar things. But I think that's given a lot for us as the steering group to consider. So thank you everyone for your input. As I say, if you've got any other thoughts following this meeting, please send them through to info@bainplanners.com, and we'll pick that up and respond and get back to you and let you know how we're progressing with issues raised today.